Hey guys, it's Sassy J here, back with another Real Housewives of New York, season 13, episodes 13, 14, 15. Well, just the second half of the season of the Real Housewives of New York. I have been watching the episodes. It's kind of hard to review all these shows and work too. So I do apologize for not reviewing New York. It is one of my favorites. It's one of my all-time favorite franchises of the Real Housewives of Bravo. And there's been a lot of talk that they want to cancel Roni now because of Ebony, and in some cases because of Ebony and Leah. And I hope they don't. I hope Bravo execs do not listen to the fans, calling for Ebony's head. Because basically, Ebony, who's the new housewife on the show, she's the first black woman to be a housewife on the Real Housewives of New York series. She was very in your face about race, and a lot of people were not happy about it. As a matter of fact, my last review of Real Housewives of New York, I actually got a thumbs down. Can you believe it? I can't believe it, but I was happy about it. I was like, oh, somebody actually watched. I'm like, maybe that was Ebony. I don't know, because I kind of went in on Ebony about her being a Fox. I think she worked on Fox News and was more than a contributor. Yeah, she worked for them for 5 years, and the racism didn't seem to bother her then, but this go round, she's all about race. And I really think it was the producers. As a matter of fact, she came out and made a statement saying that, basically she was put up to that whole stance by the producers. So it looks like she was taking her assignment very well. We know she's a good student. She went to college when she was like 16 years old, so she's very smart. And it does seem like she approached the whole racial thing like a student would, like a student that was given a presentation and blah, blah, blah. And it seemed to piss off a lot of the fans. I think it's unjustified the way people are upset with Ebony and kind of blaming the demise of the show on her. I think I've been enjoying the season, but I'm desperate, because I'm black, as you can see. I liked Ebony has grown on me. I think right now the show is getting into the groove. I think there is a fun side to Ebony. Leah, now she can go. I've never been a Leah fan. I find her to be a lot of times gross, disgusting, over the top. This season she's downplayed it, but her fashions are horrible. And, she could, either she could go or be a friend to Ebony. I do think Ebony is a breakout star. She's bringing it. She's opened up her life. I love the way she dresses. She's bringing the fashions. She seems to fit in with the women, even though she's a bit younger than the main people of the show, which is Ramona, Sonia, or Sonia, as Luann says, and Luann. Because it's only so that's the main three. And then, Leah is the newer one. And then Ebony is the newest one, and she's the latest. And there are talks of maybe getting Dorinda to come back, who, to me, she was just as problematic as Ramona. I mean, I'm just going to say, I thought Dorinda was racist. Some of the things she did was very questionable. I'll never forget, she was in a hotel somewhere, and a black man was passing by. She was sitting on the couch in the lobby. He was just walking through the lobby, minding his own business. He had on a shirt and tie. So she stops him to ask him about something with the hotel, and he was like, I don't know, I don't work here. And then she and she grabs him by the tie and all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, because every time they see a black person, you got to work there. You couldn't be a guest like them or going to meet somebody, So she's done some other things that I found to be problematic, but everybody loves Dorinda. But she did make good TV. But she's, just as problematic as Ramona. And I'm going to get to Ramona in a second, because this is just amazing. Like, if a black woman acted like Ramona, her incontinence issue, where she literally poops on herself to the point where it just shoots out. It goes down on the floor. She doesn't clean it up. And it's like, girl, why? How can you walk in crap? You can't make it to the toilet. Remember, it happened in Colombia if you watched last season. And then this season, when they were staying at the Hawthorne Hotel, I think it was, in Salem, Massachusetts, she crapped on the floor. I'm like, oh my God, this woman is crazy. She's in her 60s and she's crapping on the floor. So it's like, can you get some Depends? Like, what? Like, oh my God. And she gets away with it. I don't think, black women could get away with that type of behavior. But getting back to what happened on the latest 2 episodes, where, Ebony is having this black Shabbat. Even I'm like, why has it got to be a black Shabbat? Why can't it just be a Shabbat that black people attend? Why has it got to be a black Shabbat? So some of the things that Ebony does is problematic. Hopefully she will work this out, because I'm like, that's, to me, just as bad as some of the stuff some of the other ladies are doing. So, to be so smart and then kind of like not smart, that always amazes me. Because like Ramona said, the few times I'm going to agree with Ramona is, why did it have to be called a Black Shabbat? But anyway, she called it a Black Shabbat because, oh, get this, she was dating a Jewish guy. She seemed to like Jewish guys. I had a friend that dated a lot of Jewish guys and got treated the same way. The relationship didn't work out because she was going to convert to Judaism. And it didn't work out, but she said she'd just go through with it. And she met this wonderful lady, and she seemed like she was real nice. Her name was Archie, and I can't remember, was it B? You belong, meaning everybody can learn about Judaism and enjoying other people, discussing religion and all that. So she was hosting the Shabbat, the Black Shabbat, at her house. She's Jewish, and she was going to do Shabbat with everybody. So with Ebony and her black friends. So Ebony, as we all know, had invited Ramona, Luann, and Sonia. And she, to me, did a punk move by not inviting Bershawn. I think that was her getting back at Bershawn for doing that All Lives Matter thing at her dinner. But I'm like, for the show, what did she say? She brought it up like, I'm not going to invite you because, I'm having my friends there and COVID and blah, blah, blah. Well, your main guest, your boyfriend, who's now your ex-friend, and the way he did her was dirty, in my opinion. He didn't show up. So, and then as we found out, Leah was exposed to COVID. I think she contracted it. Yeah, she contracted COVID, so she couldn't show up. You could have had Bershawn there, but whatever. So anyway, now this was in episode 14. It was called Hangry, and they ride the bus out to wherever this lady lives. It must have been far because they had to take a bus, one of those, I guess, I forget what they call those buses in New York. And it had food on the bus, drinks, and they, rode in style out to this woman's house. And that's important for what I'm going to say next. And they get to the house, and pretty much Ramona shows her ass. She totally disrespects this lady. And I thought this lady, I felt like she should be a housewife. She seemed interesting. She had an interesting story, how she came up with the organization. There's just something about her aura I liked. And she was very sweet. And they had, was having it catered. And she could barely go over what Shabbat was about. Without Ramona just being just so rude and nasty and white privilege at its best. Just rude beyond words. I don't even know how Ebony got through that dinner, let alone the other 3 people, because we get there. So in the bus was What is that chick's name? Okay, so you had Sonia, Luann, Ramona, Ebony, and then the host is Archie, and then she had Ebony invited three of her friends, two women and a guy, and I think the one woman was pregnant. Anyway, they're all trying to enjoy this dinner, and they're all just looking at her, looking at Ramona just put on a show. So, and then we had stupid Leah on the phone. I would have cut that out. But anyway, Leah was on the phone because she couldn't attend in person. And then she did the opening song prayer, which everybody said she did really good. And then, the other two people, I think at one point after everything calmed down, what really struck out to me was that one of the black ladies opened up about how during her pregnancy, that she didn't get good treatment. She almost died while giving birth to her first child. And Ramona cut her off, by saying, "Oh, the same thing happened to me, and the nurse was black." And it was like, oh my God, because Ramona could never hear about black women's struggles. She has a hard time with that, and like a lot of people that are not evolved, they have a hard time accepting the racism that black women and women of quote unquote color. I hate that whole people of color thing because I'm not for that. But anyway, she has a hard problem to listening to people that experience racism. She always want to say, no, it's not racism, it's just people being mean. And no, Ramona, it is racism, because it's like black women are dying in childbirth in record numbers. It's alarming. They're doing studies on it. And I thought about it. I said, well, it's funny how we survived slavery and we were having babies. Black women was having a lot of babies because during slavery, especially when Great Britain shut down the waterways to import more slaves, because at one point England decided they was going to outlaw slavery and the importation of new slaves. So they, basically controlled the seas. So America could no longer import slaves. So they basically tricked this black women to have lots of babies in hopes of gaining their freedom. So black women were giving birth like up to 20 babies, just trying to get their freedom. And sometimes they would never get free, but they would keep dangling that carrot over black women. And then during Jim Crow, segregation, and out racism in the North, black women were having babies and weren't dying in childbirth. This is during the time when, especially during slavery, they treated us with, they would call the vet. They wouldn't call a real doctor, a human doctor. They would call the veterinarian just to look out, to treat us. So, and they managed to keep us alive, because we had to keep working and producing children. Same thing during Jim Crow, segregation, and just out racism in the North. That's me saying that, because it was very racist in the North as well. And lynchings took place in the North as well, just as they did in the South. Black women stayed alive. I think my grandmother was telling me how, back in the day, they would go get the doctor. The doctor would come on a horse. And, people had their babies at home. And the doctor, a white doctor, would show up at the house, and it would be a midwife, and they would help, black women have their babies in the home. And black women survived that. It was nothing for black women back in the day to have, at least 6 to 10, maybe 12 kids. Now, black women are having problems with one child, with all the great technology, because the doctors are not listening to black women when they say they have pain. One young lady was her first child. She actually died. She was a YouTuber, had like, I think, 1 million followers. She had really, was very successful. And she kept telling them she couldn't breathe. She couldn't breathe. And they were just like, oh, just blowing it off. And then she died. she had a heart attack, as it, come to find out, while she was pregnant with her baby, and she was young. So I know looking at her, she probably looked healthy or whatever, but I never understood why they just don't do tests. Why don't they just listen? And especially, you can have all the healthcare insurance in the world, they're still going to doubt you. They will always want to treat Black people conservatively. That's why they don't give out drugs, but now they are. And they're making up for lost time, because that number has ticked up as well. During the crack era, and after the crack era, it was determined that Black people shouldn't be given pain medications, because we were very susceptible to becoming addicted to drugs. So you go in for back pain, they tell you take an aspirin. Whereas, white people would get all types of prescriptions. Well, they found out that, due to oxycodone, everybody is addictive. You put a drug out there, an opioid out there, yeah, people are going to get addicted to it no matter what color. So the reason why Black people didn't get caught up in the whole meth stuff is because they weren't prescribing us oxycodone. They wasn't prescribing us opiates, and if they did, it would be like for 30 days. It was hard to get. So the numbers for us being strung out on those drugs were down, because we weren't getting those prescriptions. Well, now those numbers are ticking up, because now they're like, we're going to share the wealth. So as this Black woman was open up about what happened, how she almost died giving birth to her first child, Ramona, of course, had to say, oh no, I was treated bad and it was by Black girls. You're lying. You're lying. If anything, you might have pissed her off because of the way you act. But you're lying on that. They are not trying to lose their job by being mean to a white woman, especially back when you gave childbirth. When you gave birth to your child, no Black woman was doing that. No Black woman was not taking your stuff seriously. She probably got tired of you, because if you were acting like you were at that dinner, yeah, you probably would wear out somebody's nerves. So, Ramona, after that, she just wasn't hearing it. She just totally disrespected that woman's house. So we get to, and getting back to Ebony's, okay, I'll finish this up and get back to Ebony. I know people are going to think like, man, you're like obsessed with Ebony. No, I'm not. I just hate seeing women make unnecessary mistakes. And so, after Ramona shows her butt, production calls the Uber and have her leave the house. So I think she still stayed there. And anyway, she might have left. And then I don't know if they went on, I can't remember if they went on and had the Shabbat, but it was just pretty much destroyed at that point. And that woman was a better person than me, because I would at one point, I would have asked her to leave. Just leave and let us do the Shabbat and let everybody learn, the history of it. And because I was really interested. I'm like, okay, what is the Shabbat? What is this about? It looks interesting. So we start the next episode, which I did have that down here. The next episode was bitching and Ramoaning, whatever. So we find out that, what's her name, even peed, which is only something, I don't know, maybe, other women of, just women in general could, if they're really that horrible, instead of going back in the house to ask the lady to use the bathroom, she peed on the woman's property. How nasty is that? That was Sonia. And I don't know if you guys have been watching Real Housewives of New York as long as I have. I've been watching it from its inception. I remember when Aviva told both Ramona and Sonia that they were trash. And in that moment, in this moment, I would have to agree with Aviva. That was an iconic scene where she got them together, called them white trash. And Ramona and Sonia, they weren't having it, because even though to the manner they were not born, they really think they are, especially in the case of Ramona. We all know she came from a working class background, but she tries to act like she's owed so much. She's due money. I think Sonia does come from money, maybe old money, but maybe not a lot. But Ramona definitely. And, that's why she's always bugging staff about unpacking her luggage, all this and that, because she really wants to be at that level of um, wealth and influence and contacts and all that. And that's why she probably befriended Sonia, who did come from maybe that background. And Sonia, her being a gregarious person, she worked for Donald Trump, so that was a lot of connections. And she ended up, of course, marrying the bank. She married J.P. Morgan. So Sonia had all those contacts in which Ramona uh, just basically stole Sonia's contacts, and iced Sonia out because Sonia had all those money problems. So, yeah, they peed on the women's property. She called Ebony the next day. Archie called Ebony the next day to let them know, hey, one of your guests peed on my property, So Sonia's like, well, I couldn't make it. Yeah, so I had to go when I had to go. It had to go. And I was just like, oh my God. She was like, I do that all the time. I pee outside and then, left. I'm like, wow, I have never done that. And I, for damn sure wouldn't pee on somebody's property. I would have. Oh, she was worried about them leaving her. Okay, you let them leave you. Don't pee on a woman's property. You can take an Uber home, just like Ramona was gonna do. You could leave with production. Like, you don't pee on this woman's property, but that's what she did. So it's like, Ebony probably feels like I took the guests from hell to my friend's house. And I don't know how my friend is going to feel about me after that. Hopefully she forgives me for what happened. And then in this episode, Luann sets up a lunch to meet with the ladies. She's part of this organization that helps ladies that have been in prison or in jail. And so they were having lunch. And once again, Ramona couldn't handle it. I knew Ramona could not handle it. She really has a problem with hearing the struggles of Black women in this country, and Black and other minority women in this country. And so this young Black lady opens up about how she was locked up for 3 years, I think, and she didn't do anything wrong. She took the plea deal. I think it was just guilt by association, and because she's poor, didn't have enough money to get a good attorney, she took the plea deal and basically did like maybe 2 or 3 years for something she didn't do. I guess she was around some people that did some drugs or knew a drug dealer. Anyway, she got caught up in that, but she had done nothing, and I can see that happening. And Ramona just didn't want to hear it. She just shut her down, and it was just really embarrassing. And but I still enjoy this show because it's kind of real. I actually, in my personal life, I had befriended someone, and they were white, and I thought we were cool, and she would just come up with stuff, and I'd just be like, okay, I guess I'm her Black friend that she's gonna ask all these questions. Like, she told me about how her husband had a store, and the employee, tell me all about the store and all about what they sold and everything. And then asked me, do you think she was stealing? Because, it was a little tattoo shop, like fake tattoo shop at like an amusement park. He had a little booth or whatever, and you can go in there and you get tattoos that don't last, like airbrush, whatever. And it was only her, maybe another employee, and her husband, because he worked somewhere else. He just owned that, and he had a corporate job, but he had that as another stream of income. And so everything was left to this young lady to run. So from the gist of the conversation, I took it that she was Black. And so later on, I asked her, I'm like, did you ask me that because the girl was Black? And she was like, oh, no. But the girl, I was like, but the girl was Black, right? Yeah. So, because why, how would I know that this person was stealing? And if your husband didn't say the girl was stealing, And he was fine with letting the young lady work there, and I think she worked there years until he just gave it up. Um, why should you care? And this happened years ago, but that's just one of many things. So, um, but people, when I called her out on that and on some other things that she had said, plus she did the hair touching, she had to touch my hair to see if it was real, but of course, without asking, but of course, she was not racist. Okay. So I see what Ebony is going through and what the ladies are going through. I do like the way Luann handled herself. She, um, although she did say something that the ladies was like, oh, like something about, like something only a rich person would say, and they was just like, oh, okay, these ladies are out of our league. And then in the case of Ebony, the reason why she was going to convert to become Jewish or convert to Judaism, that's a hard word, um, uh, or is it Judaism? I think it's Judaism. I'm sorry, Judaism. Um, she was dating a guy, but first this guy was her friend, and they had been friends for a long time, and then um, after she broke up with the rich boyfriend, and this guy might be rich too, I don't know, but the one that had left her to go be with his adult children and ex-wife in Connecticut or somewhere, during COVID. He left her to be with the people he really loved, and he left her alone in that fabulous apartment downtown. I don't know how you're supposed to take that, but anyway, I agree with Ebony. He didn't love her because, so you leave her all alone by herself, separate from her mother. She's in this big city by herself going through COVID, nobody in the house with her. I understand that, he wanted to be with his children, adult children, but he actually moved back into his ex-wife's house. I guess she had, after they got divorced, it's probably the family home, and he moved in with them to be with, and that's understandable. Yeah, it was crazy. It might be the end of the world. You want to be with the people you love. So instead of maybe saying, hey, can me and Ebony stay in the, coach house, because it's probably a big huge house, because she was dating this guy that was extremely rich, and he didn't make a way for her to be with him during that time. So anyway, she breaks up with him, and then she decides to date a longtime friend who all of a sudden, after he probably got everything he wanted, said, you know what, I can't be with you because you're not Jewish. Really? When did you figure that out, Sherlock? And he, couldn't even take the fact that she was going to convert. She was not racially Jewish, which he knew before he, got what he really wanted, which was, he wanted to get in her stuff. That's it. And he got what he wanted and bounced. So, like people say, like Steve Harvey say, you can't be friends with a man because a man is never your friend, right? I don't believe that. I think women sometimes can have real friendships with men, but you really have to navigate that, and always, you never can cross from friends to relationship, because then when it doesn't work out, now you no longer have a friend. And it was like, was he just hanging around waiting for the day you get weak? So yeah, that happened to Ebony. I feel sorry for her, and even Ramona felt sorry for her and thought the guy was horrible. And it was obvious that they must have met him, and maybe Ebony filmed, but they didn't show that. So once again, I really do feel like Ebony is a great addition to Roni, and she did bring it this season. We're going to also see she's continuing to try to find out about who her real father is, and I think that's kind of questionable, and I don't know why she's doing her mother like that, because it's like your mom don't know who she slept with, and then she tells her it's a possibility of 3 guys. So she had unprotected sex with 3 guys. I mean, it happens. Um, and you're putting this all on TV. Wow. And people want you off the show. So it's like you kind of have to think it wasn't worth it. So maybe Ebony does, because she does find out that after she found out that the first man that she thought and had always been raised to believe was her father was not her father, and maybe that's why he treated her like that, because he might have known that uh, Ebony really wasn't his daughter, but maybe just didn't want to tell her that, you know what, you're probably not my child. But anyway, so uh, they were able to, through DNA now, they were able to find, she hired someone to do more like a forensic search for her father, or any close relatives with that DNA. And this lady actually found 3 men, and they were all brothers. And she even told her that, you know, one of the men had either 2 daughters or 3 daughters, and that Ebony favored them, that they look alike. And she really thinks that the one with the daughters is her father. And it's a good match. And as it turns out, the man is her father. I don't know if they're going to talk about it next episode, but it's already been out. I think she has met him, and she's met her half siblings. The man was happy to meet her, and just, you know, from what I understand, he opened, you know, greeted her with open arms. He was, you know, I don't know if they actually met, but he's very interested in meeting her. He's not, you know, holding back or anything. So I just wonder how her mother feels about that. So yeah, so that's another reason to keep her on the show, you know, even though I think that's kind of bad to put it out there like that, you know, um, but you know, it's real life, and that's what we're supposed to be watching and getting from these real housewife shows, right? Reality TV, scripted reality or unscripted reality TV. So yeah, that would be interesting if they put that on next season. Hopefully that won't be the whole story for Ebony. As far as other Roni news, they think they're still going to have a reunion show, which I hope they do. I don't see why not. Everything right now at Bravo seems to be up in the air because, as you guys know, Real Housewives of Atlanta, has not filmed. And they're talking about they won't film or won't show until 2022. Excuse me, because ratings for those shows have been bad. Ratings were down for Atlanta. Ratings were down for New York. Ratings were down to Dallas, to a point where they're saying sayonara to Dallas. The real number bringers are Potomac, Beverly Hills, which I will talk at another time about Beverly Hills, and Salt Lake City. I'm not really interested in Salt Lake City, so I probably won't be reviewing that. But from what I hear, it's the ladies are really cutting up over there. So, but yeah, as far as Roni, my lineup would be, as far as the wives, is it time to get rid of Ramona? Is it really time? Because I don't want to see this lady crapping on TV no more, quite frankly. But she does. She's funny. She keeps it real. She's ignorant. She's, to me, a little trashy. I mean, she's never been a really good dresser. Now, Sonia, every now and then, she can really wear some fashions. Luann, everybody wants to get rid of Luann because they say she's boring. But I think Luann brings it every season. She always have a new man. She's got a new place. She brought the cabaret, and she's said some iconic things. So my housewives lineup for New York would be, let's keep Ebony, give her another year to bring it. Leah, I don't know, we can make her a friend of the show. Bring back Dorinda, maybe Tinsley. They're not going to get Bethany. Bethany said they would have to show up with a truckload of money. And I think Bethany's now, she got a really rich man and they live in the life in Europe. So she's not going to come back. Maybe bring back the lady that was married to the guy that started Boost Mobile. I can't remember her name. And I think they need more than 5. I know that. They should have at least maybe 6 or 7. But yeah, so okay, let's just keep Ramona, Sonia, Luann, Ebony. I don't really see it for Leah, and maybe bring back Dorinda and Tinsley. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please let me know that you stopped by, leave a comment, or you just say hi. Hit the like button. That helps me out with the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button, or make sure that the subscribe button is pressed so I can build up my numbers for my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.